will no longer require signatures for purchases in the U.S. and Canada. The company is claiming it's no longer needed to fight potential fraud cases. Pete?
The Democrats have been told.
All right, Democrats are setting their sights on 2018 after a shocking upset in Alabama. Doug Jones is now the first Democratic.
American Express, Master.
We're looking
obviously,
and Congress to get something done.
In some parts of the country, temperatures as low as 34 below zero with dangerous wind chills.
Comfortable with these devices?
In place, obviously solidly in place for New Year's Eve.
Huckabees trigger the left with their duck hunting photos.
I'm sure that triggered a lot of people out there, but it's a part of the culture in which I grew up, and I think a lot of us in America did.
Sleigh bells ring, I understand. In the lane, snow is glistening. A beautiful sight, a beautiful man. Walking in
Well, it's just had our first spill of the day.
Hanging in there. You know, I keep looking for Rick Regmuth because
I don't see him.
he's coaching. He's coaching on the side.
There must be a heater there.
Ladies and gentlemen, America, we will get you Rick Regmuth. Some great neck games got us this rink out in the plaza. We'll be out there eventually.
He's observing.
Rick is observing. He's coaching, is what he would call it. He's helping the kids.
I want to ice skate, but I'm not looking forward to the weather out there.
No, it's chilly. I mean, Peter, you're a tall guy. What, 6'4"?
Over 6'4".
Over 6', tall dude.
Wow.
Are you an ice skater?
No.
So you get to watch Peter Ducey
I remember
attempt
the
to ice
lessons
skate.
when I was a little kid, and they would have us push the plastic chairs across the ice so that we didn't fall down.
Get Peter Ducey a plastic chair.
Please.
Well, he's 6'4". That's hockey player size.
I know, but, you know, they skate a lot, and he doesn't. So, and I don't skate at all either. I don't know how to stop. I mean, I've skated a lot in
You're from Minnesota. You don't skate?
I know how to skate. I don't know how to stop.
They're not going to let you back in the state.
I know. They already don't. But
all right. There is some serious news this morning.
Sure is.
Some classified emails were just found among thousands made public from Hillary Clinton's aide, very close aide, Huma Abedin.
That's right. The work-related documents discovered on a laptop belonging to Abedin's estranged husband, Anthony Weiner.
Garrett Tenney is live in Washington with more on that, on what we're learning from those documents. Garrett, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Neil. So we're still going through the roughly 2,800 emails that the State Department released, but so far we have found 5 emails that were marked as classified. These emails were either sent or received by Huma Abedin, and while most of the messages are related to Hillary Clinton's schedule and talking points for her conversations with world leaders, those that the State Department determined contained classified information are either partially or entirely redacted. One exception is this exchange from November 2010 regarding a phone call with Saudi Arabia's foreign minister warning him about WikiLeaks' plan to release sensitive U.S. diplomatic cables, including conversations with the Saudis about Iraq, Iran, and Afghanistan. And the note suggested Clinton say, quote, "I deeply regret the likely upcoming WikiLeaks disclosure, and I seek your help in preventing WikiLeaks from undermining our mutual national interest." The FBI uncovered the emails in the course of its sexting investigation into Huma Abedin's husband, Anthony Weiner, and they have now been released following a lawsuit by Judicial Watch, which is now calling the Justice Department to take action.
There are, I think, 4.5 million people with classified security clearances that allow them access to classified information such as this. They all know what the rules are, and I guarantee you most of them are upset that Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin got away with these outrageous violations of the law.
And former FBI Director James Comey was asked about these very emails this past summer in an appearance on Capitol Hill, and he said no charges were recommended because investigators believed Abedin didn't know that what she was doing was against the law. Back to y'all.
That's unbelievable. Wow. Garrett Tenney, thanks a lot. That last sentence, I mean, she didn't know what she was doing was wrong or illegal. It's been the defense for the Clinton team from the very beginning. Yet anyone who's taken I've had a top secret clearance. I mean, you understand what you're doing with information that's even remotely sensitive, let alone classified or secret. We know now 4, as was mentioned, at least of those Huma Abedin documents, which were on her husband's laptop that's totally unsecured. I guess they probably locked their door to their house. That's it. I mean, you know you're being negligent when you conduct something like that.
Absolutely.
You know, there's so much talk about this dossier every day. The claims in that are still unverified, but it's still all that anybody talks about. These emails are verified as classified.
Great point. Great point.
Absolutely. Remember, she was interviewed by Peter Strzok, the former investigator who also interviewed Hillary Clinton and, by the way, Michael Flynn. And Huma Abedin in this interview said that she did not know about the private server until Hillary Clinton left the State Department. That's a blatant lie, and I believe that lying to the FBI is what got Michael Flynn in trouble. And I think the American people are looking at this and going, why is there such a double standard?
Because you can't lie to the FBI unless you're connected to the Clintons and protected by those folks, it seems, inside the FBI. And that's the feeling that so many regular Americans, the forgotten Americans that voted for President Trump. Listen, I look at the swamp and I see people who have privilege and access and another set of rules that I don't have. And they get to do whatever they want. And if I do make one misstep, then I end up in prison. This email investigation into Hillary Clinton, which is being reopened, we still have an ongoing DOJ Inspector General investigation. It could find some real things that lead to a reinvestigation and investigating the investigators. You know, we had Mike Huckabee on, former Arkansas governor, former presidential candidate. We asked him about this double standard. Here's what he had to say.
It's a horrible double standard, and it's something we can't afford to have, is a justice system that we don't trust. And increasingly, Americans don't trust the Department of Justice, don't trust the law enforcement agencies because they feel like that they are politically selective in who they go after and what they try to do to them. This is a dangerous place. This is the kind of thing you see in totalitarian countries where the power of government is used to step on your political enemies. That's a dangerous, dangerous thing for a republic like the one we live in.
That's right.
And something that I hear from a lot of conservatives, lawmaker types, you know, congressmen and their aides in Washington, is that they're getting really frustrated that the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, is not prosecuting stuff like this. The president suggested to the New York Times this weekend he thinks that Obama had an Attorney General in Eric Holder who was more loyal to him than Sessions has been. So this could be a real test. Is Huma Abedin going to be prosecuted the same way that somebody like David Petraeus was a couple years ago, or does she skate? And I think that you're going to see a lot of Republicans and conservatives watching the Attorney General very, very closely over the next couple days to see if there is actually a double standard or if they actually...
It's in the hands of the Attorney General. A lot of people asking, why isn't he doing this? And some people suggesting maybe the deep state has some stuff on him because there's no explanation. I mean, I really am scratching my head going, I mean, he can recuse himself on Russia, but why not jump on this?
And he would have a chance to restore integrity to that institution, which has been perceived as political under the Obama administration. Appoint some Democrats, appoint some Republicans, and look at what happened with the Clinton email server. It's not that hard to play it down the middle, even if Bob Mueller hasn't figured out how to do it with the folks. Something
very hard though. DACA.
DACA. Yeah. Well, DACA has been a pinch for certainly Democrats are adamant about deferred action for childhood arrivals. The so-called dreamers who came here and when they were children, they're not necessarily children now, but they're invested in making sure that they stay. Well, Republicans and especially President Trump have said, we're going to build that wall. And we're going to make sure we end chain migration as well as the diversity lottery program. The president tweeted about it yesterday, saying the Democrats have been told and fully understand that there can be no DACA without the desperately needed wall at the southern border and an end to the horrible chain migration and ridiculous lottery system of immigration, etc. We must protect our country at all costs. You know, Rachel, your husband works on Capitol Hill. You've looked at these issues extensively in the Hispanic community. Is there a deal to be had here?
I think there is. And first of all, the president also has a heart for these kids who have been caught in the system. And he said that repeatedly. I want to do something about this. And he extended the deadline to March because he's trying to make time for Congress to do it the proper way through the People's House, through legislation and not through executive order, which, of course, as we know, can be undone. Look, I think that the president has a pulse on the American people. He always has. He has his America First agenda, and that includes securing the border. And I think the American people have wanted immigration reform. They have wanted a solution for DACA, but they also want it to be done properly, and they don't trust immigration reform or an amnesty for the DACA kids without securing the border, and they don't trust Republicans to do it, but they do trust Donald Trump.
Well,
can they do it?
But they want it done right. They also want it done in the next 3 weeks because the next deadline to fund the government or else face a shutdown is January 19th, and it appears that Pelosi and Schumer are positioning themselves when the Republicans come to them and say, hey, help us keep the lights on here for another couple weeks or months, they can say, we'll do that if you come up with a permanent solution for these dreamers. So they want a permanent solution for these kids brought here illegally, or people brought here illegally as children by their parents. Republicans want a wall. Something's got to give. And the Texas Attorney General, where in a state where a border wall would be
helpful,
potentially, is talking about how he thinks that a wall there could make a big difference.
El Paso used to be one of the highest crime cities in our state, and now because there was a barrier built, a fence, it now is one of the safest cities in America. So I think there's lots of data points that the president can point to that would suggest that this would be successful policy for our state and for our country. It's been too long since we've had real reform. It's also, you know, we're looking all across America at Congress to get something done, and I think it's time that happens on immigration, and there's something for everyone in this type of deal as long as they're willing to come to the table and talk.
So there's a big meeting on Wednesday, Peter, which you'll be following, I'm sure, on Capitol Hill.
Right. Ryan and McConnell are going to go for the Republicans, and Pelosi and Schumer for the Democrats down to the White House. They're going to talk to the president and some of the other power players there, Mick Mulvaney, the budget director, and Mark Short, the legislative director.
This gets at the contours. I mean, this is where the discussion begins about what kind of deal could actually exist on a government shutdown, on a border wall, on DACA. And I tell you, the activists on the left are furious with Pelosi and Schumer about not getting DACA done. And I'll tell you, the supporters of President Trump, if there's one thing I hear at the diners and at the grassroots groups, it's build that wall. So both have a lot at stake. And then you've got chain migration, the visa lottery system. A lot to be worked out and keep the government open. Some smart guys and gals at the table. We shall see. We'll bring it to you on this program.
That's right. We got to go to some headlines right now. An officer is shot and wounded in an ambush attack overnight. Los Angeles police say a female cop was conducting traffic stops when multiple rounds were fired in her direction. She was rushed to the hospital after suffering a gunshot wound to the thigh. She is in stable condition. A 28-year-old suspect was arrested at the scene, but authorities say there may be other suspects at large. The U.S. sending a warning to Iran as thousands in the country protest the government. President Trump tweeting his support for the protesters as the Iranian regime cracks down on some of them. He writes, quote, many reports of peaceful protests by Iranian citizens fed up with the regime's corruption and its squandering of the nation's wealth to fund terrorism abroad. Iranian government should respect their people's rights, including the rights to express themselves. The world is watching. Turning now to extreme weather, incredible pictures. Parts of Niagara Falls freezing over in some parts of the country. Temperatures as low as 34 below zero with dangerous wind chills of 89 below. Even the Great Lakes are feeling the effects. Lake Erie near Buffalo and much of the shoreline rock solid with ice. And those are your headlines.
Wow.
Democrats slamming the president for saying that he can do what he wants with the Justice Department. Former Attorney General Eric Holder even calling it dangerous. But is the president wrong or not? Former DOJ official Christian Adams is going to weigh in next.
Plus, President Trump has been fighting the fake news all year long. But it took a group of college students just 36 hours to win the battle. How'd they do that? We'll tell you how they did it when they join us live. Don't miss this one.
Welcome back. President Trump facing backlash from the left over comments he made about the Justice Department's Russia probe. In his interview with the New York Times, the president said, quote, I have absolute right to do what I want to do with the Justice Department. Now Democrats, though, are firing back. Congressman Adam Schiff tweeting, no, you don't. You can do what you want with your golf courses, but the country and its Justice Department belong to the American people. And former Attorney General Eric Holder tweeting in part, wrong/dangerous. Trump doesn't have absolute rights with the DOJ. But are they wrong? Here to weigh in is former DOJ official J. Christian Adams. Good morning.
Good morning.
So who's right here? Can the president do whatever he wants with the DOJ?
Well, not everything, of course, but, to have Eric Holder, this morally degraded ex-attorney general who was running a gun-running operation to Mexico, talk about anybody doing anything wrong at the Justice, he should have to go away for 20 years and not be heard from. But President Trump is talking about something very important, and that is that the Justice Department is infested with ideological partisan law enforcement, and it has to be dealt with. It has to get away from this Holder model that was normalized of helping Democrats through political law enforcement.
And you talk about the DOJ being infested with partisans. When you see something like these new classified emails that Huma had on her husband Anthony Weiner's computer that they knew about in 2016 and were not prosecuted, does that boost President Trump's argument that the DOJ is filled with people who want to help the Clintons and want to hurt the Trumps?
Well, of course it does, but that's only one of a list of about 30 other examples. Right now you have Representative Devin Nunes from California asking for all of the documents related to this phony dossier. Remember the one, I can't even describe what it says on the air, that says that President Trump likes to do certain things, and this came out during the campaign. We now know it was a Democrat-created fake document that the Justice Department relied on, quite possibly, to get national security search warrants, to possibly bring criminal charges against individuals, to unmask individuals, to launch criminal investigations. Representative Nunes has asked the DOJ to turn that over, and if he doesn't, he's going to hold Rod Rosenstein, who is a deputy attorney general, in criminal contempt. It is continuing this partisan law enforcement to help Democrats even today.
So Rosenstein is in charge right now of the election meddling Russia probe, and he does have oversight over Mueller right now because Sessions recused himself as a former campaign surrogate. Is there anything Rosenstein can do about this?
Yeah, he could do what he's supposed to do. Rod Rosenstein seems to care more about the bureaucracy, the institutional bureaucracy of the department,